Welcome back to Mrs. O'Graham's Maths. We are wrapping up the Bivariate project with a conclusion now. Now, we'll add a couple of other videos after this of some extra bits that can go into your project, but this brings us to the final piece of just making the basics of your project. So your conclusion should be a final summary of what's come before. So the idea of a conclusion is that you should be able to pick up a report and read the introduction, so your problem section and your conclusion, and get the main gist of the whole project, and then you can go into the project to find out more detail if you want it, but the main message of what's coming up in your project should be contained within the problem and the conclusion, and they should relate to each other. So we need to say what kind of relationship we found by doing this investigation and link it back to our purpose. So first main headline from the project was that we found that there was a strong positive relationship between the carrot and price. We also found that this relationship was best represented by two separate linear models, and I've put in here the range of the carrot sizes that those linear models would apply to best. Then you need to refer back to what the purpose of the investigation was. So this could have been perhaps for somebody looking for a diamond, or perhaps a retailer, or somebody wanting to value diamonds. Whatever it was that you chose your purpose to be at the beginning, you need to restate it now and say how that links back into your purpose. So the purpose of my investigation was for valuers to be able to come up with a model that would help them to easily value these diamonds, and these two models can help to do that within the range of the carrots that we were looking at. And then finally, when you're thinking about wanting to build this project up into more than just your basic achieved, there are some things that you could consider. So for merit, you have to refer to research. So there's got to be some research that you did back at the beginning with your problem question, your introduction to the project, the research that you've done there. You'd reflect on that and see how your conclusion ties into the research. Did that research support or contradict what you have found? You would also be looking to put more detail into your conclusion if you're going for a higher level grade, and show statistical understanding. So when you're talking about these sorts of things, you need to show that you understand it to a really high level and understand about its statistical significance. And then you should also reflect on the process. So the things that have gone into this investigation, do some reflections on that. Were there any limitations to how this can be applied? So for example, on the diamonds one, we wouldn't want to apply this to any diamonds above 1.1 carats because we don't have data on them. So this would be limited. Also, we only took these details from one particular retailer in Singapore. So take a look into what the data source was and whether that would affect your investigation. And we don't know if this retailer is reliable in their pricing or not. It could be a particularly high-end or low-end retailer, and that would give some limitations to how the findings of our project could be applied. And from there, you would start to think about improvements. If you could run this again, if you could get more data, if you could do something else, what improvements would you make to the project to make it more useful and be able to be applied further? So for example, you could say that you would want to collect data from different retailers throughout New Zealand, since we're trying to apply this within the New Zealand market, and that would be something more useful to us. Go back to your purpose and who you thought this was useful for, and think about what improvements you might make to make it more useful for that person. All right, so that finishes off being able to write one of these projects. I'm going to do a couple more videos now of some extras that can go into this, particularly in the analysis section. With the nature of bivariate data, and it kind of varying depending on what data set you get given and what it looks like, there are some different things that you can do with that. So I'm going to add a few more videos that gives you ideas of different things depending on the data set that you've got, and other things that you can talk about that would show that high levels of statistical understanding.